revealing that 5 major Western economies have fallen out of the list of the top 10 most generous countries. However, South Africa has rallied and moved from being number 45 to being number 21 out of the 114 countries, according to the Charity Aid Foundation's World Giving Index, which is a global survey that has interviewed more than 1.6 million people since 2009. For more on this, we are joined via Zoom by CEO of Charities Aid Foundation in Southern Africa, Gill Bates. A very good morning to you, Gill. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
A very good morning to you, Simpiwe, and to your viewers, and thank you so much for having me on.
Indeed, it's an absolute pleasure. Gill, can we start with you perhaps explaining to us what the CAF World Giving Index study is and how it came about?
With pleasure. Simpiwe, it's a very important research piece of publication. It's published every year. It's been running for 10 years. It's based on a Gallup poll, which canvasses, amongst other social issues, giving patterns across the world.
Okay.
So, in fact, the 3 particular giving behaviors that we are tracking are 3 questions, basically. Have you in the last month helped a stranger? Have you in the last month donated cash to your charity, or have you donated time? And we do those measurements across the globe, and so that we can track trends and patterns in terms of giving across the world.
Okay. And several countries, I do understand, have moved up the rankings and made their first appearance in the top 10, including a couple of African countries. Tell us more about this and why the other countries have fallen out of the list.
Indeed, Simpiwe, these were incredible findings for us because traditionally, the global north, those developed economies with the deepest pockets, typically take the top 10 spots. For example, the United States of America has been number 1 in terms of generosity for the last few years. But very interestingly, the major economies such as the US, Canada, Ireland, the Netherlands have fallen horribly. The only 2 developed economies that have remained constant have been New Zealand and Australia. And as you say, out of the top 10 countries in terms of generosity, it is incredibly pleasing to see that out of that top 10, 4 are to be found on the African continent, which we think, is an incredible victory, as this research was done in the height of the COVID pandemic.
What contributed to South Africa moving from 45 to 21 out of the 114 countries?
So, Pio, it's an excellent question, and we obviously, track these reasons. We want to understand what motivates people to give. How do they prefer to give? What are the causes closest to their heart? But most certainly, I think in South Africa and in Africa, we have seen in the reports over the last 10 years that the gap between the global north and the global south is closing. In other words, Africa is rising, and we are of the opinion that, our fundamental culture of Ubuntu has a great deal to do with this. Yes. In fact, we also measured, in which countries were you more likely to be helped by a stranger? And again, African countries came out top. They came out 6 out of 10. Where you are most likely to be helped by a stranger is on the African continent. So that indeed is really encouraging news for us, particularly given the very painful time we find ourselves in now as a country.
All right. Now, the survey also shows that more people donated in the year 2020 than they'd done in the last 5 years. Speak to us more about this.
So, we've also noticed that in our practice at CAFSA. We were anticipating that our donations and our donors would have absolute donor fatigue. We run payroll giving programs, so, people's budgets are stretched. But interestingly, we saw that in many, many instances, people gave more. And in fact, even now as we speak, there are drives, people wanting to donate goods, medicines, foodstuffs, blankets, etc. So I think it speaks to the country's really sense of generosity and wanting to help each other out. And we certainly didn't expect that our giving patterns would hold steady, never mind rise. So I think as we're seeing, many people of all walks of life, black and white, young and old, are working shoulder to shoulder to clear up the streets, to facilitate the transfer of foodstuffs. I think we're a nation, we're a generous nation, fundamentally.
All right, Gill, great chatting to you, man. Thank you so much for your time. And we certainly hope that this generosity continues, because this is when we need it the most. I mean, we are going through the most as a country, as a continent, and throughout the whole world. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you this morning.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Be well.
Thank you. You too. That was the Chief Executive Officer of Charities Aid Foundation in Southern Africa. And we've been speaking to her about their World Giving Index study that shows how much South Africa moved up from the ranking from number 45 to number 21. That was Gill Bates.